Well, Paul, in your article you say this. Um, you have questions about and directed to the building opposition to the men's rights movement. Fittingly, the primary question is, are you serious about doing battle with the MRAs? Are you fucking serious? If so, you are in deep shit. Well, here I am, Paul. Let's see how much deep shit you're really in now. Okay, first of all, Paul, I am not some run-of-the-mill little twerp here, okay? I'm actually involved in academia. I have access to all the information that you only dream about, and I also have access to all the professors that I have ever had. Sociology, psychology, anthropology, philosophy, you name it. They will very readily come to my aid in this little dispute. But, you see, I don't need them. The problem here being that Paul Elam, male spelled backwards, which isn't even clever, is essentially the perfect example of the kind of lunatic that we need to point out as a lunatic. Now, according to you, the men's rights group is gaining momentum here. I love what you say down here in the second part of the article. By the way, folks, this article is addressed to me, believe it or not, and one other person, and it will be left in the low bar for all to see here. And this is what I find the most amusing of anything concerning these idiots who call themselves men's rights advocates, who are in fact anti-feminists. Yeah, we have long quoted Gandhi around here. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. The problem is, though, old Paul, Gandhi would take one look at you and see you for the small-minded moron that you are. Quoting Gandhi does not make you non-violent. So we're not buying that crap for 1 minute. In fact, let's look at what you have said previously in your comments on your radio show and in the essays you have written. Right here, and this will be linked in the low bar, this is once again the Southern Poverty Law Center's. It's the articles that they had on the men's rights movements. And here we have Paul Elam, the blogger behind A Voice for Men, less than 2 weeks after Ball's suicide. This talked about the guy who lit himself on fire. If Mary Jane Rottencrotch decides to falsely accuse her husband of domestic violence in order to get the upper hand in a divorce, Elam boasted on his internet radio show, we can publish all her personal information on the website, including her name, address, phone number, even her routes to and from work. Okay, now, Paul, you guys are nonviolent and are fans of Gandhi. How do you think Gandhi would view that? What would be the purpose for you to actually publish this woman's information? Well, I'll tell you right now what your purpose would be, frankly. And the purpose has nothing to do with what you're claiming. And what do I mean by that? Okay, I mean this. It comes down to how modern hate groups are structured, folks. And in the low bar of this video, also, you will find the Wikipedia page of Mulugeta Seraw. Some of you may know that name already. Mulugeta Seraw was an Ethiopian immigrant who had come here in the later parts, I believe it was in 1985, 86, somewhere around in there. He came here from Ethiopia, his native Ethiopia, to get an education in college so that he could better his family. He was hardworking, he was a good guy. Everybody who had ever had an interaction with Mulugeta Seraw liked him. He was just a good old-fashioned, hard-working American immigrant. The kind that everybody should hold up to as an example of what people should be doing. What was Mulugeta Seraw's reward for this? He was murdered by a bunch of white Aryan nation supremacists, a bunch of individuals associated with a group called the White Aryan Resistance. And they were sort of headed and run by a guy named Tom Metzger and his son. And now, Tom Metzger never expressly told anyone to kill anyone, but the message was understood. And this is why the Southern Poverty Law Center, back when I knew it as the Southern Poverty Law School, has been so successful in taking out hate groups. They look at guys like Tom Metzger, the White Knights, the Ku Klux Klan, or the Aryan Nation, and they are able to establish in civil court that the rhetoric and the vitriol that is created by these individuals leads to these kind of things. Now, the actual guys who did the killing were an individual. He is now dead, actually. Ken Deathmesky, that's his name. Kyle Brewster and Stephen Strasser. I'm reading this right off the page right now, folks. And they were all part of a group within Portland called Eastside White Pride, and they had ties to the Aryan Resistance Army, or the Aryan Resistance War, whatever the hell you want to call them. Jackoffs, let's put it that way. Now, eventually, the Southern Poverty Law Center was able to win something like $12.5 million judgment against Metzger and his son. And of course, Metzger, who hated the government and despised it, ended up going on food stamps immediately after this happened. By the way, there's also an episode of City Confidential that covers this. If I'm sure that it's available on A&E. It may even be available on YouTube. And this is the kind of thing that hate groups do today. They don't really centralize their power out of fear that they could become targets by some group like the Southern Poverty Law School. And the fact that clearly the anti-feminists, which is what these guys are, they are molding themselves on that model. Guys like old Paul Elam and the rest of his cadre of miscreants, John the Other, any number of these guys, any number of these people right now are frankly molding themselves on this model of hate, something that the Aryan Nation and the neo-Nazis have done. This is a non-violent movement, though, according to them. And what evidence do we have of this non-violence? Huh? Well, I don't know. Maybe the fact that they have essentially killed far more people than any radical feminist ever has. We have the incident down there in Marc Lepanier in it was in the École Polytechnique in Montreal. 1989. He went in and announced, "I'm fighting feminism," and he then lined the women up against the wall, killing 14, injuring 10, including 4 men. That's the incident that's referred to in the SPLC's article on this. It also refers to an incident in Long Beach in October, where Scott Evans Docre and his wife had been in court to fight over custody of their 8-year-old son. And Docre walked into his wife's hair salon one day, his ex-wife, and shot, how many was it? 7 women, 6 of them fatally. He also accused of killing 2 men, the salon owner as he attempted to flee, and a man in a car outside. The woman, Michelle Fournier, which was this guy's ex-wife, had testified that Docre was not taking his bipolar medicine and that he was suicidal and dangerous. If she had survived this rampage, she might have enjoyed having the last word about his propensity for violence, but she did not. So, these guys of the similar mindset, like the Paul Elams and the Johns, the others, and they can pretend all they want they're non-violent, but it's pretty damn clear what's going on here. And it's got nothing to do with men's rights. Non-violence my ass. Not only that, let's talk about non-violence in other regards. I've been threatened. Any number of the other women who identify themselves as sex-positive feminists or just feminists on YouTube and other sites have been threatened. They've had their comment sections flooded. They have been personally cyber-stalked, basically, by you and your cadre of morons. Small though you may be, but determined. Is that the non-violent movement you're heading here, Paul? And don't pretend like you don't know what's going on here. You know exactly what's going on. You have declared war. War is, by its very definition, violent, socially sanctioned, potentially lethal action. How do I know that? Well, let's just say that I know a lot about war. and not just in the sense that I like to say it to try and scare people. You need to get something through your mind right now, Paul. I don't give a shit what you think you're going to do in trying to intimidate me, because it's not going to happen. Send your lackeys, send your crazies. Let them fill up the comment sections of these videos. Why? Because I want to use it all as evidence against you, you little dickhead. Every nut job, every fool, every threat, every jack-off that you send against me is just another bomb I lob back at you. And guess what, Paul? I'm a lot better at it than you are. Because unlike you, I have the facts on my side. And that makes an enormous, enormous difference. Nonviolence means that you are advocating for non-violent interaction between men and women. You're not advocating for that. Not in the least. In fact, let's read another excerpt from Paul himself. And let's move down to here. And yeah, here we go. So, yeah, that's when you attack the vegetarian park activist because she had a little bit of a freak out. And go farther down, farther down, farther down. Here we go. Paul Elam wrote in an essay with a provocative title, "When It's Okay to Punch Your Wife." The real question here is not whether these, and I quote, this is Paul, "women deserve the business end of a right hook. They obviously do, and some of them deserve one hard enough to leave them in an unconscious, innocuous pile on the ground if it serves to protect the innocent from imminent harm. The real question is whether men deserve to be able to physically defend themselves from assault from a woman." Well, from assault from a woman, yeah, you can physically defend yourself against assault from anyone. But that's not what you're talking about here, you little jackass. What you're talking about here is being able to knock your wife out when she pisses you off. That's what you really want. You want the right to basically do whatever you like to people when they make you angry. Paul, I can recognize an unstable male myself, okay? There are a lot of us who can. Women recognize that too. You are an unstable male. You try to hide it, but you can't. You can't hide it because it's hard to hide for somebody like you. You're just on the edge of losing control at every one moment. You don't feel virile anymore. You feel like you're less of a man. And rather than accepting that you're getting older and this just kind of comes with age, you freak out and attack everybody else. The very essence of being an unstable human being. And that's what you are. So, imminent protection of the innocent. Why is it that all hate groups couch their language in the idea of they're protecting the innocent? Who are you protecting? Men? I don't want you speaking for me. And there are any other number of men who don't want you speaking for them too. Because you're not speaking for men. What you're speaking for is a small, tiny, violent minority of misogynists who do not care about the rights of others. They only care about their own rights. And their rights only so far as they can inflict unimaginable harm on other people if they so see fit. Everyone else is the problem, you see. Only they are capable of seeing the truth. God, I've heard this before. What? We've heard it from the racists, we've heard it from the ethelists, we've heard it from the Paultards, we've heard it from the Quakers, the bakers, the candlestick makers. This is the same damn story. All extremist groups, from radical feminism to the Aryan Nation, have one thing in common. You all are convinced that you have revealed truth. Just like Christians say. That makes you a religious organization in that regard. Not really, but clearly you have a religious bent to your thinking. Revealed truth. Revealed truth demands a great deal of work and effort on the part of the individual seeking it. And it's not easy to acquire. And generally, revealed truth does not lead you to a violent end. It leads you to the realization that violence in and of itself is not an end. There must always be something more. End part 1.